Okay, so welcome to part 2 of using Solidworks Weldments. In this video I'm going to go a little more in depth on some other things we can do using Weldments. Just a quick review. Weldments are basically a sweep with a predefined profile, and that profile comes from a profile library which exists inside your default Solidworks. Real quickly, I'll show you what that looks like. If you go to your Windows drive, this is the default location. You may have them stored somewhere else, but if we go to Program Files, SolidWorks Corp, SolidWorks, Lang, English, Weldment Profiles. And again, ANSI inch, we've got angle iron, C-channel pipe. The only issue you may run into here is that these may be write protected. So you may not be able to change them, but for example, this is a 1x1 14 gauge. This could be steel extrusion, steel pipe. But what we could do here is, what I'll do is if I need to create a new one, I'll just grab one that already exists. This is 1x1. I'll make 1 1/4. Oops. Apologize. We'll edit the sketch, and you see it has this little icon here, this little, I'm not sure what this is called, but it's beyond what's normally there for a sketch, and that denotes a SLDFP, LFP part, which is a library feature part. And so if we edit the sketch, what I'll do is I'll come in, I'll grab something close, I'll do a save as a copy and open. And let's see, 1.5 by 1.5. And so what I'll do is I'll change the name right here. 0.5 by 1.5. And this 14 gauge 0.083 is one I've already added. And so as you do, you build your library as you go. So they'll save this as a copy and open. And then what I do is, just for safety, is I Control Tab back to close the previous one. And now you can see I'm in my 1x5 by 1x5. And so all I'm going to do here is change this sketch. And it's already pretty well constrained, so I'm just going to change it. And you can see there's already some equal constraints and so forth that exist. So this changes to 1.5 per side. We do a save as. It's already selected here, library feature part. Save. Oh yeah, it already exists. Oh, okay, so it's read only, which means we're not going to be able to. See if it'll let us save it. Sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. The other way around that is to run SolidWorks as an administrator, and it'll allow you to go in there and edit those profiles. But you have to be, it has to have the admin privileges. There may be a way to turn that off. I'm not the world's best IT guy, so maybe you IT guys can give me some clues on how to do that without having to run SolidWorks as an admin every time. But just for sake of argument, let's leave that there for just a minute. We'll use that profile here in a second. What I really wanted to show in this video was the 3D sketch feature. If you're not using 3D sketches, they are a powerful tool, but they can be frustrating if you're used to 2D sketches, because a 2D sketch constrains us to one plane. A 3D sketch takes away that constraint, so we can sketch in any direction. You really have to use your relations properly. I keep wanting to call them constraints. That's an inventor term. It's the same thing, but I teach inventor, so sometimes I get my terms confused. But so let's grab a 3D sketch here, and you can see it doesn't ask me for a plane, and I can draw this line in any direction. So when I start a line, I get this weird little deal on my trident here, my origin, and as I start to draw, you'll see it can go anywhere. I mean, who knows where this line is going? So what you can do is drop the line, and then one of the constraints you can use is you can tell this line, make a long X, make a long Y, make a long Z. So let's just make it along the Z. It happens to pop to the back, that's fine. I tend to add dimensions as I go, so let's do 24 inches this way. And what you're going to see me do here is a table. And like I said, I tend to do this as, now this already added the X, throw that in the Z, oops, put the Y on there, sorry about that, Z, oops. So sometimes 3D sketching can be a little frustrating. You have to take that off there in order to make that along the Z. It pops it to the back. We'll just grab it and drag it forward. Now, theoretically, if I join these two, I should be able to put this right on the X. And so there you have it. So let's do a 36 in this direction. Now here's where it gets interesting. Right now I could have done that with just a 2D flat sketch, so I really haven't taken advantage of the 3D sketching possibilities yet. So let's do this. Now let's add legs to our table. Just keep adding legs. And these happen to pop along the Z. Let's go ahead and make these all equal to each other. I don't know what your sketching practice is, but you always want to try and add relations first before you add dimensions. So what I did was I set those all equal to, so I could have done the equal afterward, but you get the idea. So let's add a cross member. There, and let's just make that along the Z. So you can see I take a little more care when I'm sketching in 3D, just because I don't have the plane constraint telling me that I'm locked to the plane. And so you have to be a little more hands-on with putting your lines in there. And so now what I can do here, I'll use a construction line to make these two same. Make that along dx. And we'll bring those up 12. These are going to be my cross members. And we'll do the same going across these. These will be a little bit higher up. Just some under supports for this table Z. And how about 8 inches above that? Really doesn't matter. We're just demonstrating it. So now what's different about this is instead of being constrained to the top, front, rear, or top, front, or right plane, I now have a 3D object that I have sketched in space. And so if you're not using this tool, I really recommend exploring it a little bit. It has some really nice options available to it. One of the things about it, though, is you have to exit the sketch over here. It will not let you exit the sketch here. So you have to come over to the right side of the screen, up top right, and exit the sketch there. So again, just rotate it around. I have a full 3D sketch, and you'll see right here in my tree it says 3D sketch. So if we remember before, I can skip adding a weldment. If I put a structural member in, it'll automatically add the weldment for me. So let's do that. And I'm going to do a new group, and I'm going to grab, how about 2x2? Sure, 2x2. All right. And I'm going to work around the top. So again, remember what we can do here. We've added global miter corners, which is probably what you're going to do in this instance. And I'm going to go ahead and locate the profile to the top so that my line represents the top of my part. So initially it grabbed the center line, so that 34-inch height that I gave it, I had to add another another inch, because remember I was in the center of the tube. So my height would have actually been 35 instead of 34. So in this case you could see how locating the profile down changed that. Again, if my 12 and my 24 were critical, I might want to push them in a little bit and grab the corner, but in this case I'm going to let it slide. So let's see, I need a new group here because I can't add these downward links under group 1 because they're not flowing the same way. I don't know how to explain that, but if I look at group 2, watch what I'm allowed to do here. I can then add these in, and now I have legs, but then I want to look and make sure. Okay, so because I didn't shift that to the center, my legs are still good. If I had moved that profile inboard of the line, I would have had to move this profile inboard as well. The next thing we can do here is, if we're staying all with 1 by 1, if I was changing material, for example, in fact, let's do that. Let's do a rectangular tube. Oops. And let's do, 3 by 2. Wow, substantial. This is probably a little more than you would need, but let's do a new group. Put that one on, put that one on. And if we take a look at these are correct. Now, sometimes you'll get them, and they'll come in the wrong orientation. That just depends on how the sketch is. But if you can see, I can change that with a locate profile. I also have an angular alignment as well. But it came in right. The reason the order of operations is a good thing here is these should automatically trim to those. We'll see. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Boom, so we'll add that guy. And they did not. So in this case, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. I haven't really figured out. Maybe someone can explain to me. This will be a good question for the comments. If someone can explain to me why my bodies don't trim here, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and just use the trim extend here. And it's pretty simple, just like all of SolidWorks. It asks, this standard property manager field, right? Bodies to be trimmed. Well, we're going to trim that one and that one, that one, that one, that one. And then we're going to use bodies to trim, and we're going to tell it to trim with these 4. And what that'll do, instead of my bodies, if I suppress that for a minute while we're watching it, you can see that my member extends into the line. Now, another way to do it would be to add a gap to the line, but to be honest with you, I think that's a lot more effort and brain power than really is necessary. So let me unsuppress the trim extend, and now you can see it runs all the way out here. And because this is 3 by 2, yeah, so this is perfect. Now, if you really wanted to, you could go to the trouble of adding the weld bead in here. I don't think there's a quick command for it, so to be honest with you, I think in a lot of cases it's not necessary. I have seen instances where weld bead can interfere with some things, so it might behoove you on some circumstances. One last thing I wanted to show you was this end cap feature. This is really cool. So let's say I want to put a 1/4 inch end cap on here. I could change that. All I do is tell it the end's the pipe. This is so cool. Boom. I now have end caps on my pipe. And that's going to be something I can call out in the drawing. So again, 3D sketching and then using Weldments. I've kind of mixed it up a little bit here. If I wanted to go back, I could change this. Remember that, let's just see if my 1.5 by 1, my 1.5 by 1.5 thing here. And look right there, it changed it. So there you go. That's another nice thing, is you can change your materials on the fly. Now, it screwed up some other things because that's 2 inches wide and this is 1.5 inches wide, but you can see that it responded to that. In addition to that, I can change my height on the fly. Say I want to make that 36. So all I do is edit my sketch. Table's longer. Make this 30. Make this 40. Rebuild. So that's the beauty of the 3D sketches. All my dimensions are controlled at one control point, this sketch. I want to raise or lower these heights. I've got a handful of dimensions to get that done. So part 2 shows you how to make a quick little weldment table. And we'll explore this a little bit further. There's some really cool stuff we can still keep doing with this. More tricks up my sleeve. I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe. Thanks.